Hey. Oh, good.
Good morning. How are you? What's new?
How are the friends? These seats are. These seats are.
My favorite
Seats are kind of low.
I'll switch them over. I'll get you. They start talking back to me.
Hardly look over the dais. Well, like when we're out somewhere, I'll sit.
You know, being a favorite to a 7-year-old is really easy.
Talk.
Well, babies really like me.
We're ready.
Are we ready? All right,
It's a little
everybody's
iffy.
ready. Let's call this meeting to order. Rise, pledge the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Green,
Here.
Commissioner Orthwein, Commissioner Orthwein,
Here.
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Here.
Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Also present and participating is Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, CFO Mark Bymaster, Chief Jones, and myself, and absent with notice is Commissioner Canfield.
Thank you very much. We've been presented with the minutes from our meeting of February 14. Are there any comments, additions, corrections, or a motion?
I move to approve them.
Second?
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
Very good. Our next meeting will be April 11th at 9 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. Public comment. Anyone wish to speak?
Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Good morning, Christine.
I have got my coalition hat on today, and I wanted to invite all of you. We are going to do our annual Gulfstream meeting on Tuesday, April 15th, and it's going to be in the chapel. And it's going to be at 5:30. And it was kind of interesting because I was thinking about, should I say something glib or anything? I guess what I really wanted to say was thank you. It has been on the 31st, 18 years. And Gulfstream and Mayor Cook was the first one who got the coalition together. And our friend Skip Randolph talked his friend Joel Strawn into drawing up some papers really quick and for free for us. And then Mayor Cook used his influence and he called Mayor Khalil and he said, we got trouble brewing, get over here. Then they called their buddy Bob Ganger, who came and sat in my living room and he said, you know what? You just moved here. You might want to meet some people. And he says, I'm sure you're pretty bored. I'm like, yeah, really? No, I'm not. And he's like, well, this will be a 6-month gig. We're going to run it like a political campaign. And would you come help us out? Because we know that you've done grassroots advocacy programs before. I said, sure. So here I stand 18 years later. Here's the brochure. I'm going to make a small presentation to the Gulfstream Civic Association. They are the ones who gave us our first check of $2,500. And so please feel free to take a flyer, feel free to talk about it, pass it on. And that's it. I just wanted to say thank you again for your support.
Thanks, Christine. So Tuesday, April 15th at the school chapel
Yes,
will
sir.
be the annual presentation of the coalitions, what's going on the Barrier Island, issues to come up. That's very important and helpful for people to understand some of the problems and issues that we face here. The Florida Coalition does a tremendous job. So thank you very much. All right, let's move on to our public hearing. Anyone who's going to speak today, please rise and be sworn.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, Mr. Marsh.
This is 3224 North Ocean Boulevard. Any ex parte communication?
And Mr. Mayor, I've got a voting conflict.
Okay,
I'll
and
let the town
Vice
clerk know.
Mayor is recused. And if you're ready.
Yes, good morning. Mark Marsh, Bridges Marsh Architects. We're here on behalf of Amos and Barbara Hostetter, who are bought 3224 North Ocean Boulevard. Most of you are, I'm sure, familiar with the project or the property. It has a old Bermuda style house on it, which was, I think, built in the late 60s. And they've decided that they'd like to demolish that and build a similar one-story structure, not two-story. So we're here today, or I'm here today, to ask for permission to demolish the existing house. Just to familiarize you, most of you, I said, should know the property. The house sits fairly back from North Ocean Boulevard, or A1A. And it's centered in the property. It has an access from both North Ocean and Gulfstream. And what we're proposing, if you could, so you could see the outline of the building, if you can focus. So all the structure is going to be removed. The only thing we plan on keeping for construction purposes are the driveways, which will be more useful for laydown and just for circulation. I hope to be before you later in the year to present the project in terms of the proposed building. They're a wonderful couple. I think some of you might know them. They have some roots in the town. His father was a member of the club for a very long time. They're moving from Hillsborough, where they've been residing in season for, I think, 30 years. And they've just fell in love with Gulfstream. And I think they'll really be a great asset to the community. And I hope the architecture being, it's a very large, well, when I say a large property. And we're going to do just a modest house in that same British colonial look. So I think it will be very appropriate. So with that, the only other thing we requested at ARPB is they would like to start as early as possible. And we did get approval from the ARPB to start early demolition. I can just share with you, if we were granted that, it would be somewhere in early April. As we know, May 1 is the official, but they're anxious to get going on really seeing the property in its natural form. So I would make that as part of our request as well.
Questions?
How many days is a demolition of this size property going to take?
I would say about 5 at the most. It may be shorter because it's a single story. There's nothing of any value in the house. There are no hazardous
Is there a
material.
neighbor on either side that's going to
Yes,
be concerned about in season?
there's a Mr. Delafield Bow is, I think, on the north side. I can't recall who's on the south side.
Is there a reason you can't just wait till May 1st? I mean, because you don't have even plans to build yet. I mean,
Well,
why is it a hurry?
he's just, anxious to get going. And the only reason we're requesting is because the property is pretty insulated from the neighbors, just by setback. So, and the road work will be going on shortly. So I think it's going to kind of mitigate each other if there is a noise. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to use it at all as a timing issue, but if we could start early, that would be really helpful.
Our residents have gone through a lot, Mark, with the construction from the road work project. I don't know. I mean, talking about a month or 3 weeks even until you match the December.
Okay, whatever the commission wishes. I just was asked to make a case for that. So
How long is it going to stay a vacant lot is my question too. I mean, are you going to grass it over?
Oh, it will be grassed,
Okay.
irrigated.
Okay.
It'll be natural.
Because it'll be in a lot form for a while.
Yes. No, a part of our demolition application, we have a whole specification how to restore the property. So
I'd love to help them out, but I'm afraid I can't be persuaded that there's a strong reason to advance, this a month from the May 1st code requirement, particularly given everything that people have undergone this year with the CIP project. But anyways, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I mean, just from my perspective, in terms of, doing this type of exemption, it almost feels like you'd have to get the neighbors to say, hey, okay, given the factors. So that, to me, that's us just granting that now without really knowing the potential disruption, given everything else going on, just in such a short window, doesn't seem like the right time to do it.
I think it's only 3 weeks. It's not like you even have plans coming through here.
We're going to control the marketing and everything here.
There's no reason.
I'm just an agitator, sorry. No, it's a request that Mr. Hutstetter asked me to, see if we could
We don't
pursue.
want to make you have to come back.
Right.
I mean, we can approve all this effective May 1st, if that's.
Well, whatever the commission's wishes
Yeah.
are, that's
I
fine.
think because Easter's so late this year anyway, like April 19th, I think, or something. I mean, a lot of people are still, I don't know, if there was a good reason. But
It's just to
I don't see a
expedite the
good
project,
reason.
and the owner would like to.
You have great entrance off A1A to avoid all that road construction. You and I are going to have to be bothered with it, actually, when you,
Right, be less traffic.
yeah, A1A.
Okay.
So the only thing
Wanna do
really,
this so they don't have to come back.
right, so the only thing really before the commission is the demolition, which you can just approve straight up. Typically, the exemptions from certain work in season are handled via the code by the town manager. This was just something that he was not comfortable approving on his own, so we just added that request just for discussion. That's not to say that, Greg can't, review this, to see if the residents aren't there or something like that. But we do need to get just the approval, and that would not include anything in season. And we can address that further at the staff level if, we can talk to the resident and Mr. Marsh about that.
Great, let's do it that way. That got a consensus.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Appreciate it.
Is there a motion,
Oh,
Ms. Earthworm?
yes, a motion to permit the demolition of the existing residence at 3224 North Ocean Boulevard, legally described as plot of Gulfstream Properties and all that kind of stuff. You just need the demolition permit.
Is there a second?
Second,
Renee?
Commissioner Green?
yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes,
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
and you need a level 3 architectural site plan review to permit the demolition of existing Bermuda-style single-story house building.
Second, is there a second?
Yes, second,
Commissioner Green?
yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Mark. All right, let's move on to the town manager's report on the CIP.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. With respect to the construction of phase 1, I have some particular comments that I'd like to make, but I do have Mr. Chipman, Rick Chipman with Baxter Woodman, who is here with us today. He's basically the construction manager. And I have four Baxter Woodman. And then I have 2 of our inspectors here also. I'm not sure if you would like to hear from them to get
Well,
detail.
the last meeting, I think Anthony presented a list of items that he wanted to see done before we would allow
move on
the
to phase 2.
company to move forward with starting phase 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, sir. And so, I mean, I'm prepared to say as of today that I'm not prepared on behalf of the town to recommend to you that they begin phase 2. I just believe based on his historical performances and meeting deadlines that they in fact set for themselves to meet, I just don't. I don't feel comfortable moving on and starting a new phase with so much that's left to do in phase 1. So That's my update on the CIP project. I mean, I could sit here and list things that are not completed yet, but I don't know if you want to go through all of that.
Why haven't they been completed?
Yeah.
That's all I want to
I don't know.
Is it lack of focus?
I mean,
Resources,
George, do
what's
you
going
want
on?
to?
Yeah, can y'all just run through
Yeah,
the,
why don't you just kind of
run through the highlights, like the testing of the existing drainage, the status of the pipe on Gulfstream Road, the status of the cut through on Middle, and the other stuff
I
that,
think we talked
the
about
ma-
it the last.
yeah, the major stuff. We don't need to talk about the valley gutters anymore.
Good morning, everyone. Based on the list that Mr. Gregg is referring to, most of those items are already being completed from our understanding. I believe the last time we met, one of the biggest concerns for the town was the drainage pipe. The drainage pipe inspections have been inspected beyond of what was expected to be inspected. I believe it was 50 to 60%, and we met that goal already. Then the next concern, I believe it was the irrigation and the sod for restoration. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we've done about 95%, if not a little bit more.
How many houses have been connected?
Connected, meaning
Yeah.
with irrigation?
Yeah, no.
Oh, the water line, we just got the approval of the as-built, and now it's gonna go for review and approve so we can do the connections.
So none.
No, but that was not part of the list. That's something that is alone, have to go to the
But
DERM.
as part of phase one is to connect each
Correct.
home to the main water line that took months to install, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and
Just-
none have been connected.
That is correct.
And how many would you estimate you could connect in a week of work?
In a daily basis, we want to say about maybe 5, at least 5 a day.
5 a day. Okay.
Approximately 5 a day, correct. But that's, like we said in previously meetings, that's up to also, is going to approve. I don't know how the process goes with the city. It takes a couple of weeks to get approved, and then we can do the connection, but that's not going to disturb the road in any way.
But you would agree that would be a substantial completion item for the phase one project, is bringing the water to the lines that go into the houses,
Correct.
right?
Yes, sir.
Which hasn't been done yet.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so.
No, go ahead, Jim.
Wasn't there a problem on Polo Drive with the water? Did that get resolved? The drainage, remember that?
Well, yes. I mean, there's a pipe that needs to be
Exactly, that's what I'm talking about.
correct.
Yeah, that
So-
pipe, just recently we got approval that it needs to, that was something that it needed to be done. It was just only video the pipe to confirm if it was damaged or not. The pipe is damaged, and that's not gonna be under the road though. It's gonna be behind the valley gutter.
But it also, I mean, it's work that will need to have,
Done.
Correct.
and it's in the right of way, so you're going to have to, dig a trench,
Yes, sir.
and so that's work that's going to be obvious and have equipment there and probably block a lane of traffic, while you're doing that. So, I mean, I don't think you can get that done by the March 18th date for substantial completion.
Again, March 18 is in reality, I believe, based on the actual dates right now, I believe that I know it before the previous CPM schedule that we submitted was March 18, but I believe the last one that we submitted, I believe it's March 27. Also, like we said in the previous meetings, and I have been saying it for a while now, we have encountered multiple delays on this project, including all the utilities conflicts and the mocking that we encountered that we didn't expect to encounter so much mock. Now, we were presented with the idea that we were going to be able to start phase 2 when phase 1 was not 100% completed. We didn't submit our claim to ask for an extra days for all these conflicts, assuming that we were going to meet the goals that we met already, the dates that we provided to you guys. And now after even we met these dates, it seems like we're not going to be allowed to start phase 2, which we understand the reasons why, but we did meet those dates as we stated before.
For the one caveat that we had was the 60% completion of that drainage pipe. That's one thing. That's
It's-
one item.
It's not a
There
one
are
item.
so many more that, according to my engineers, so many more issues that need to be completed. I believe in my mind that there's too many to move to phase 2.
And like I said to you, Mr. Greg, before, if that is the position that the town wants to take, and that's, we understand and we would accept it. At this point, we will have to submit time extensions due to the delays that we encounter with all the conflicts that we have found and all the mock extra work that we have done through phase 1. So the actual March 18 is not a true date.
What is your true date?
I have to submit the requests. I don't want to say the top of my head, but it's about 60 days. If you make me trying to guess, it's about 60 days.
The end of May.
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't have the health department permit yet for the as-bills just got finished to connect.
No.
So what are we 4 weeks out on that, we think?
I think it might be able to be done in 2 weeks. We just got the drawings today.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's been a month.
I think we need to hear from the engineers who are, tasked with monitoring the work being done and making recommendations to us. We're not
Yes.
monitoring it, obviously.
Yes, sir.
So I think we should hear from Rick.
I'd like my colleague Anthony Monroe to address that and possibly Anthony Beltran.
Before you, George, I just want to understand. So the reason you were trying to move on to phase 2 was largely due to the impact to the school and the construction in front of Gulfstream Road?
Yes.
Okay.
And also,
Yes.
and also because the items that are pending are small items that we can do at the same time that we start phase 2. They're not going to stop us from not proceeding with what is pending to be done.
Connecting the houses is not, and laying the new pipe that I don't think has even been started yet.
Yeah,
Connection pipe.
that's actually a subcontractor, sir, who's going to be doing that work. Again, it's not going to take from our force to do that work. And again,
You have a subcontractor run the lines to each of the homes?
yes, sir, that's have to be a licensed plumber that has to do that work. And yes, we do have a subcontractor who pull out the permits, who's applying for the
But
permits.
it's still under your aegis. You're still.
Oh, no, yes.
Whether it's a subcontractor or your own employees, it's
Correct.
your project.
Yes, but
I don't see how that can be deemed substantial completion of phase 1 when that critical piece of work needs to be done.
from my understanding, and I could be wrong, the agreement was that we were not going to meet the substantial completion based on how the contract was put together, because this permit that is required and tying into the houses, it takes an extra time. Now, we can start at phase 2 while we were still doing that work. That's my understanding how it was, the town and the
There's not
engineer.
been an agreement on any of that.
Again, I say it was my understanding that's what was agreed on, but I could be wrong.
So the reason that I asked George about the school is because I've spoken with the chief and I've spoken with the headmaster at Gulfstream School, and they're happy to accommodate any disruption by rerouting traffic or other things if we do have to do construction on Gulfstream Road. Gulfstream Road during the school year. So pursuant to the contract, phase 1 shall be fully constructed with the exception of the final lift of asphalt prior to the commencement of construction of phase 2. So they can proceed to phase 2 as of right once they finish phase 1. So I think that we should really direct, because the school can accommodate that construction, we really need to steer the conversation on really directing them to complete phase 1 completely instead of working on the list and everything like that. And I think that would be a lot cleaner, since the reason for the early start the school impact is really a non-issue now. But obviously, if we want to talk about that, we
Just to
can,
clarify
but
this, I think we did say you could start phase 2, given some things were completed.
Thank you.
But I guess the school was the reason why we were pushing to go forward quicker, and also because you had things mobilized. I mean, come on. But I don't know if everything's been completed to their satisfaction.
If the commission would indulge our
Yeah.
inspectors for a few minutes.
I think that's a good idea.
All right, yeah, let's hear from the inspectors and engineers. Thanks.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning. All right, Anthony.
Where would you like to start?
Anthony, go ahead. I mean, you.
At the beginning.
Any questions or concerns you could just ask. I'm not sure where you'd like me to start.
Well, what I'd like for you to do to kind of review some of the items that we talked about at the Wednesday meeting, even this morning, or every day of the week that still needs to be done that
Yeah.
they have not done.
So as you previously stated, the drainage run that's on Polo between Banyan and Old School needs to be completed. It will impact traffic, even though the work will be done in the right of way that is in the green area. Estimated, I would think it would take them a day, maybe 2 at most, but it will have some disruption. They have completed majority, like George said, probably about 95% of restoration as far as grass, irrigation, driveways are being completed, I think, by the end of next week.
How about I forget what you call them, but the specialized concrete driveways?
So those,
Stamped concrete.
Correct, so-
Concrete. What's the status of that?
George, they provided us basically with an estimated time of completion by the end of next week for
Do you have a
those.
contractor who can do it?
We found a contractor who said that they can start Wednesday next week.
Okay.
We're gonna do a few of them, sir.
Right, no, I understand it's a special.
Are you notifying those residents? They're gonna have to get their cars out of their
That was when, I'm gonna speak to R. Scott. Mrs. Renee is gonna reach out to the Lanigans, so that way because they have 2-sided driveways. They can use one side while they're doing it, but because they're both the same and they're gonna construct them at the same, they're gonna have to move their cars out, so that way they won't have accessibility to the driveways at all,
Right.
period.
Also her, she's got stamped as well.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
So-
That's correct.
No, I did.
And also across the street at Calicchio's.
You can
So,
imagine how happy
yeah.
people would be if to get out and see you
Yes.
pouring concrete and they can't get out.
Correct.
Probably only as happy as they can't drive down the street.
Well, I'm giving you
So the
notice.
stamped concrete is going to begin next week. It should take a week or so to finish. Okay. What else, Anthony?
As you've stated, the water services to be connected, the water main to be approved, as George stated. The as-builts have been reviewed and accepted by us, so the next process would be for them to chlorinate the line, get the bag teas tested and sampled, set off to a lab for testing, wait for the approval. Chipman would submit the package to the health department, wait for the approval. Once it's approved for use, then they could be connected. So there's roughly, 78 homes in phase 1. Some of them are relocating water meters from the back of the home to the front of the home. Those would, guesstimating, take longer to do than just a straight connection of ones that don't have to be relocated. So it's kind of a mix.
How many of those?
Those are 14.
14 in phase 1.
Yeah.
So those would
And the
take,
reason they need an outside source to do that, because they're doing connections to the home itself.
correct, that's a plumb.
So that's plumber work.
Okay.
The other lines that they have already stubbed out, waiting to be connected, falls under their water license, so they can do that as part of distribution, so they can just connect those.
Are we all set on most of that? Like we're not, like we know what to do, or not like trenching and figuring out where new mains have to go, especially on the 14.
Well, that's where we would communicate with the contractor and try
Yeah.
to do some foresight for materials and know what we're getting into before the connection instead of disrupting the resident for, extreme amount of time. That way we have all materials there for the connection. That's something we communicate with them about. But again, we have to wait to get to that point.
Right. The easy connections are just about all the other homes except for the 14.
Correct.
Well, I wouldn't say,
I
When
wouldn't
can
say
I-
they're
wouldn't say
easy,
easy.
but
Easier.
these
Yeah.
are older
What's
systems.
required before those connections begin?
full approval for use from the health department. We have to have full clearance for use. That way the line and the water main is deemed approved for use from the public.
And do you need to have the trench and the new pipe put in on that section of road that you just mentioned? Does that have to be done before?
All those are out of the road. They're in the green areas from behind the curb to the water meter box. So as far as excavations, it would be minimal, but you get to that point where I said there's 78 homes. You know, some of them could take longer because we're relocating from the meter from the back of the home to the front. Others would probably take less time, which are more the meters are already in the front of the property. So that connection might be a little quicker. I can't say yes or no. I mean, he gave an estimate of how many they feel that they can do in a day. I know with looking at some of these meters already and what we've seen there, everyone's kind of like a special situation. They're all kind of different as far as connections.
Because some are in the right of way and some aren't in the right of way. Some still sit back in the property. I was hoping that when we designed this, that I would be able to pull all the meters from within the private property and put them in our right of way, but that didn't end up happening. So
How long are the residents going to be without water, the difficult ones?
difficult ones could probably be a day.
Yeah, we'd like to have it under a half a day, but with these, you would always want to overestimate, tell the resident this amount of time. We would always obviously notify the residents day prior, morning of. We would wait till after probably a certain hour, maybe 8:30ish to where they would do their morning activities, disconnect the water, and hopefully switch everything over. This is with no complications, you know, hopefully.
So they'd have it by 5 o'clock, maybe?
We would like to be
We would
before
like to
that,
be before
but
that.
realistically, you always want to overshoot
For the
that.
whole day? I mean, overnight?
No,
No,
not
no,
overnight.
just during the one work day.
Okay.
Yeah,
It'll be done by the end of the day.
yeah, you would like to
Whatever
say
that is.
worst case scenario.
No, I don't like this hope.
I understand, but the reality of it is that when you start opening a meter up and you start
Well-
disconnecting it, you don't know what's on the customer side that could cause an issue for you to connect to it.
Yeah.
And that's always been an issue for me when I start doing it. Me and Wayne, when we do a repair to a system, there's always complications. At least a good 90% of the time, we've run into a problem where on the customer side, because of the materials, whether it's still galvanized or if it's copper or if it's PVC, we need to repair that because we can't give you service without having that fixed.
I'm just trying to get to the
I'm just being
resident
honest
that,
with
oh,
you.
no, that's
You
fine,
know,
but
I just,
somewhere during the day, you might tell them they're not going to have water that evening?
we'll go door to door and let them know this day you're gonna be
Yeah.
without water starting at this time in the morning. So that way they know not everyone on the street is gonna be affected as long as they stay on task and do one side of the street and walk around and come back. I mean, I don't know how they're gonna do it, so.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I'm,
So you're not, I mean, if this goes perfectly from right now to mobilization, doing all these odd things like driveways for the connections, you know, you're not really realistically getting this thing wrapped up, sans a few homes till like the middle of June.
If George
If you were-
estimates,
If you were going fast.
if he estimates 5 and they hit that mark, you're still roughly a month
month
worth
and a
of,
half.
a month and a half worth of services. If you have some complications and you cut that number in half, you've doubled the length of time.
By the time you have all the permitting, the testing, I mean, you're gonna be, you know, 2
Well, the
to 4
permits
weeks.
are already in for Highland Beach and they're, I guess, finalizing, if I'm not mistaken, George, are they finalizing them up?
Yeah, our subcontractor submitted it to them.
Okay, yeah, they're using Line Tech, so they're
So
pretty.
how long does it take to test the
The water line?
water lines once everything's?
They have to burn the water line for 2 days and then they sample for
2 days.
2 days
Okay.
consistently.
Also, Anthony, can you remind me the work that they need to do that is going to impact the roadway?
So far, there's 2 spots in the drainage that we've identified as possible point repairs, which would mean excavating the road, repairing the drainage system. One of them would be on Right Way, one of them would be on Old School between Polo and Gulfstream. I think we were gonna look at one of them, they do have their vacuum truck here, so we can review it again. I've already reviewed it. I've submitted to our office what I've observed as well as the other inspector. So we have to look at those 2. So in discussions with Anthony and the other inspector and one of our project managers with the water main issue, jumping back to that if I can. There's a spot on Old School between Polo and Gulfstream that will need to be excavated to install an additional valve. Their process of installing, flushing, and testing the water main for phase 1 didn't fully complete intersection of phase one. So they'll have to install a double valve because you cannot have an unapproved system, which would go down right way from Polo Old School up against the backside of a valve for a non-approved system. It would be possible contamination. So
Why wasn't that?
I'd have to ask the contractor that. When they did the flushing and the testing, I mentioned, hey, are we going to flush and test this? What I was told is we're going to flush and test this way. So per design, the phase one goes from Polo to Old School and goes east and west. They have flushed and tested west. They did not flush and test east, which stops right there at Gulfstream. So in that process of what they've chosen to do, they now have to go back into that road right there with that cluster of valves is at that intersection and install an additional valve that would create a space for no possibility of cross contamination from an approved main, non-approved main to an approved main.
How long does that take?
That would be probably a day worth of excavation and doing that installation, but just the way everybody's aware that will be a road excavation that will need to take place.
Will we pass the final testing to hook up without that valve?
On the one side you will,
Yeah.
on the other side you won't. So this system going to the west will be approved, but once you then go to test that additional section, you
It's like
cannot
6
test.
homes, right?
You cannot
Give or
test
take.
a non-approved system against an approved system. There has to be a space, which we call a vent to atmosphere. So that way we can
Right.
identify there's no cross contamination from approved to
It has to have
non-approved.
the valve to have a jumper on it in order for it to be approved.
And
Because
that's,
without that jumper, you can't do it.
yeah, the truck was going there this morning. Is that what I said?
No, that's a
No, it's a
vacuum
different-
truck. That's different.
Okay.
That's just for them to clean the systems
George,
on
why
the
hasn't that been
drainage.
done long ago?
That,
We get a truck and get it done. Well, why has that not been done?
George, if you're going to answer, I need you to come
Yeah.
to the mic. Thank you.
The way the job was designed, all the fingers was going to be on phase two, except Old School. And that was an oversight. We did started putting the water line. At one point, we were approved to start doing this phase two, this portion of phase two, but then we were stopped because we didn't have the watering permit at one point. So at one point we was asked to proceed, and then we were asked to stop. So we didn't proceed to the installation of the water line up to this end point here. At that point, we had to stop.
So you wanted to do it, but the engineers wouldn't let you do it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's not that they didn't let us do it. At that point, we didn't have the watering permit. I don't know if you were aware
That
of.
was the one for Little Club, yeah. No, we know that.
Yeah. So
July.
so we had to stop at that point.
I know, but that was last year.
Yeah, but that's part of phase two. This
But the
line.
valve is not. I mean, Anthony has just explained to us that phase one, you can't even test this portion of it without putting that valve in.
Correct.
So why wasn't that valve done? And if it needs to be
Also-
done, why hasn't that been done when you have plenty of time? There have been very few trucks around here in the last.
It was also agreed and even was requested to put it on the as-bills that we can do that line on phase two. Today, I'm finding out that that's not the case.
You're just learning that today.
We were requested that we can do it on phase one or we can do it on phase two. Just today, I'm finding out that it's
So
not.
is
like
this
it's-
valve on the as-bills we just submitted?
It was asked to eliminate that section to be done in phase two.
if I may clarify something.
I need you to go to the mic, Rick.
Come on up to the
Please.
Go up the mic. Thank
If
you.
I may clarify something, there's no problem in terms of the health department certification, getting clearance to hook up phase one to the houses, not doing that line. It's just that line now presents a problem to the town because it's literally in phase one. So that's the whole thing here. So we said, yeah, we could proceed with the certification the way we have. That section can be done during phase two, but the problem now arises to the town that there's a bit of work that would need to be done in the roadway. That's actually part phase one. So that's the clarification I wanted to offer.
So that strip of houses can be connected in phase two, or they can put the valve in, test it, and do it now.
Yeah, how many houses are in that little strip?
Like 6, right?
On which strip are you
We're
referring to? The
going
one from
we're
Old School to
going from
Polo?
Old School to, I'm going on Old School from Polo to the intersection of Old School and Gulfstream Road to the center.
You
there.
have 1, 2,
You got the Armor House, you
3,
got the Grias,
4, you
you
have
got
4.
Cudmore, and you have 4 then.
Yeah, you have 4.
Some of them is connected in Polo. I
Right,
believe.
the one for the school, Mr. Gray's house, is the
One of
only
them
one
is-
that's connected on Gulfstream, that's separate from it.
We have-
Oh, no, I take that back. Bonilla's house as well. The 2 corners are fed off of Gulfstream,
Yeah,
and Cudmore and
so it's
Mr.
2.
Ballast it's just 2 homes, yeah.
So it's-
But here's the problem, and he mentioned this to me, and I didn't think about it until just now when he reiterated it to me. That section of Gulfstream to Polo, coming off of the main line, off of the OAC line that's there existing now, if they sever it at Polo, then I lose water to those 2 residents. That's going to be a problem. And I didn't completely, if I cap it, they still won't give me water from coming back from the other side. If they sever it at Gulfstream at the T and have the new system in, then yes, we can use it. But if they don't have it in and approved, then I won't be able to get water
So it's something that they have to coordinate.
because it's going to be cut off.
Seems to be a lot of uncertainty here.
How long does it take to put that in?
Well, they got to flush it and then still put it in with the as-bills that they already have submitted. Then get that approved and then do the testing of it and then get it passed. So it's just probably a matter of 2 weeks difference in between what's on Polo and if they get their as-bills done quick enough.
It's just that, I mean, if it's just adding that to the as-bills, it won't take long at all.
Well, Anthony, you've been involved in this every day.
Yes, sir.
As much as the engineers, frankly. So, in your opinion, what needs to be done?
I still have the
meet
12-inch line that's
phase
at the
one
end of Gulf View
obligations.
that hasn't even been done yet.
I'm sorry?
The line, the valves that need to be installed, which I requested to change the way it went in because of the design, and then also trying to figure out a way to eliminate having them to do a lot more restraints on an old existing line to try to accommodate time-wise for them to do that, and also disrupting any further damages to stuff they've already restored, basically. That needed to be taken care of first, and Jockey put it together, and we got it all approved. And we just gave that back to them, last week?
No, we haven't gotten it yet.
Why
The change order, we haven't gotten that back yet.
For the proposal
For
that
the
you
quote.
sent to them
Yes.
for that, they haven't sent that back to you yet?
No, sir.
Okay, so they haven't received it yet, but that's still an important part for me because now, as you know, that I have Blue Water Cove on the other side for 2,900, they're doing their transition from the water line over there because they've been approved already through the health department. All that stuff is done over there. I need to shut the water off over here, and that's going to be a whole entire day. So those 3 homes that are on Gulf View now will be out of water for 3 days, for the whole day. And pray to God that they finish the fusion on that other side, because if not, they won't have any water. And that's an issue for me. That's why I was hoping we can have this already taken care of, because they're scheduled to do that next month on the 9th. They're trying to push it up. Mr. Wellens, the owner of the property, wants to push it up sooner than that.
And why can't,
Because they have to install that valve, but they can't do it until Baxter Woodman gives them back the blueprints on.
well, I
to go
thought you
ahead
said
and do it.
Jockey did
He
the
did them, but he
prints and-
submitted to us, but they had to give us a proposal, but he sent the proposal in. They haven't approved the cost to say go ahead and move forward. So right now, it's a
Get
standstill
on
for
that.
us.
Let's get that wrapped up, get the cost, get the plans so that we can get that done.
They submitted their costs already. We're just waiting on, I guess, I don't know, because I haven't been previewed with the emails back and forth.
I got
it.
So I don't know.
So we've got like 10 weeks of water work here that hadn't started yet, basically, give or take. The season's ending, so it's not necessarily that back half of the connections are not necessarily terrible for phase 2. Some of those residents are seasonal. So then are we back to digging up the road at Gulf View now or later? This ain't gonna wrap up till like July 4th. add another 2 weeks to it, just some window time. Because you're going to have Anthony, you're going to have some connections that you're going to be
Oh, I already know that we're
toiling
gonna have
with.
issues with
You're
some
going to
of
be
them.
toiling
Yeah.
with for a while.
Because
Yeah,
some of the
I
homes
know.
are still on galvanized lines.
Yeah,
They haven't
yeah, no,
changed.
I understand. So,
If I may, real quick, on Gulfview,
Yes,
it won't, you'll have an impact on the road as far as machinery and traffic, but the majority of the work will be done on the outside of the road. I think the big factor of the 12-inch on Gulfview is keeping residents in service with water. If they don't, or if they are unable to, or start after 2900 does a connection, the possibility for that not going according to plan would impact residents. If we have them perform the work that they need to do on this side, we can keep the residents with water.
Because I'll only have to turn the water off temporarily until they install the valve and back it. Then the rest of it is still being backfed from over Los Angeles anyway.
There's too much uncertainty here, and we are just moving from issue to issue. What I'd like to do is have a meeting next week with representative of the contractor, the engineer, staff, and either the vice mayor or myself will sit in on that meeting, and we will decide what needs to be done. We'll get full explanation without kind of doing it here. And we can better put ourselves in a position to evaluate phase 1 and phase 2. Okay?
yeah, we just got stuck on the connections.
So just one more comment, Mr. Mayor. I mean, at our meeting on Wednesday, we did ask for dates, right?
Yes, sir.
For items to be completed from the contractor. We can't, that's means and methods, and we can't tell them when they need to be done, except for, a final
We cover all that
disposition.
at our meeting. I'd like to have George there or someone else from your company, maybe a couple people, a couple of the engineers, Anthony, staff, and either Tom or myself. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, let's move on.
Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to bring everybody up to speed on the financing of this project. So I'm going to hand this out to everybody. No, I don't think there's any surprises in here.
No surprises. That's good. I think everyone has one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so so Mark put this together for us. Mark, if you could just kind of go through it, there's one line item in here that I want to speak to myself.
We're doing this one.
Yes.
I just went through all the costs that have been incurred by 3/14 as of today, and you see the total is around 6.5 million. There are some recapture costs, and as of the actual main contract, the contractor, there's estimated about 8.2 million left on the contract, where probably about 2 months of that has already occurred. Now I haven't seen the invoices yet, so I'm not quite sure what that amount is, but it's probably pretty substantial. So as of right now, that 8 million is probably quite a bit less than that for completion.
And so there's on where it says other costs under restoration, I just wanted to point out here, this line item really deals with about 8 or 10 homes in terms of finishing the restoration of the driveways and the grass and that sort of thing. So we've had basically we've had 10 different situations that we've had to address. Now, without taking too much time, I'll give you a couple of examples. On some of these, the residents went ahead, they were getting tired of waiting, so they went ahead and put their grass in, their irrigation in themselves. We had others, or at least one that was going to use another contractor to finish theirs. And the contractor, our contractor said, okay, well, just send us the bill for that. And then there's been a couple, two or three, with respect to the driveways, that the restoration of the driveways to do it correctly and get the right transition went beyond the right of way. And so, which is as far as the contractor will go. And so there's a section that has to be paid by someone. And so we're not going to ask the homeowner to pay for something that the town is doing. And so there are some driveways that had to go beyond the right of way to do the correct transition, right?
Yes.
And so the town would be responsible for that. I mean, and so if you look at these numbers right here, the 19,000 is not that's not the town's responsibility. The 4,000 I say that it is, and one of those is one of these driveways that is the bulk of that $4,000 that the town really needs to pay for to make the transition correct. So the one that you had a question on is included in that 19.
No, that was, yeah, because the contractor told her to give them the bill or whatever. I don't know how it worked.
Yeah. Right.
But while the contractor's out there doing the stuff in the right of way, I mean, do you talk to the resident to see if they can finish it up at the same time? Or does the resident have to go out and get their own person?
Well, it's a matter of getting it done. And again, we rely on the contractor to finish these off. They didn't have, they didn't do a street by street. They would go from one street to another street. So it was hard for us to know when they were going to be working on a particular house. And so,
George has indicated that the driveways are going to be finished in a week or so.
Yeah, but I think this is different. It's what's from the right of way to the property. Some of them are inclined like this.
Okay.
A couple of
yeah,
them.
so it's
And
what's
I
beyond
said,
the
as long
right of
as the
way.
contractor's there trying to make it all right, would it be simpler if he just finished it? Yeah, please.
We have addressed that issue.
Right.
Except with one driveway. We have gone beyond the right of way, maybe by a few feet, to address the pavers. Because it hasn't been much. But there's one particular, as far as I'm aware, there's only one particular driveway of pavers that had the slope was drastic. And to make things worse, the existing pavers, the thickness of the 16 pavers, we cannot find it. Therefore, the whole driveway has to be done. And the owner has agreed to do the entire driveway.
He's referring to the Howard residence in front of Archcott's at the end of Palm
Yeah,
Lake.
at the end.
The tile is imported and it's a thinner style, clay style, porous tile that they use. And it's not easy to be found. And the dye lot is going to be completely different. They gave them a sample. I saw the samples and they didn't even remotely look the same.
So that's the only one? Oh,
No, there's another house, the Sacripanis.
Yeah, but that's a
I understand,
tile,
but the town
marble
is,
tile that
but
has to go in.
but that's
We'll
going,
have to go in and encroach
that's
into that
going
private
beyond
property.
Yes.
the
No, I'm
right
just
of way.
saying, can the contractor do it since he's there?
No, the contractor, the same
Okay.
contractor is doing that job for the
Okay.
Howards. Yes.
But then the homeowner doesn't go out and hire their own contractor to do it.
No, he hired the contractors that were
Right.
doing the job.
That's all I'm
this
saying.
contractor,
Right.
yes.
But that's not what happened in the other instance. They hired their own person to go in.
They did.
Yeah, that's what I.
But what they did is what they ordinarily would do in the right of way. So
Okay.
that's why we're putting that.
And the
one
same
in
cost
there.
factor.
Well,
That's what I was getting at.
no,
because-
I understand. So, Mr.
Yeah.
We have to control the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Issue
understand
that the
that-
resident can't go out and just hire somebody or have
some of them
him.
have done that, and so
Well, yeah, but we're paying to have it done.
Okay, so then the resident would be responsible for the difference in the cost of them doing it otherwise,
The house I believe that Mr. Greg is referring to is the one on Polo Drive on Palm Avenue with the tile.
Yes.
That driveway is also the only driveway that has tile that is glued to the concrete. In our contract, we're supposed to be using the same material. We're supposed to remove the pavers and put back the pavers. This particular case, we're not able to remove the tile, the paver tile. Therefore, that's not part of our contract. And what I was explaining to the town and on one of our last meetings is that if the town agrees to please the owner, which I understand the owner wants to have a beautiful driveway like they have now, the transition, they want to make it flat, smooth, not to have a break point. But our contract is only to the right of way. If the owner wants to have it a nice, smooth transition, I would understand the owner position, but that would be an extra cost, an additional cost for the town. We're not responsible for the material itself because in the contract said we're supposed to be using the material that is existing.
Right.
In this particular case, we're not going to be able to use the existing material because it's glued to the concrete.
So in the end, I mean, it's our goal to make this such that the resident accepts it, right? And so there are.
Yeah, my only point is that we paid the contractor, and I just want to.
No, I know where you're coming from.
You can't get the cost out of control to have residents go do things, and we're not aware of them, and all of a sudden they submit a bill.
That's the way
we have no guidelines over their bill.
That's why I stepped up to the.
Oh, good. I mean, just cost. How much is it reasonable?
I wanted to address that particular issue. So this really just came to a head this week at our progress meeting, and the town presented to me several invoices and from residents and or other vendors hired by residents. And we discussed the dilemma of how we sort the cost out relative to the construction contract. The dilemma is that we have homeowners moving ahead and during conversations in the field or not conversations in the field, we have residents moving ahead, doing some work on their own that may be part of the construction contract. So what I have told Greg is that I'm going to go through each one of these invoices and we're going to delineate the work task in there that we feel is the contractor's responsibility as part of his contract. We still need to give that to him and let them respond. So in other words, if a homeowner gave us an invoice for all this work and half of that is really the contractor's responsibility, we'll have to get the contractor to buy in to be responsible for that portion, or then tell us what portion he feels it is. And there's going to be a discussion there, a negotiating point in there. The other aspect of this issue is that the town is very sensitive to residents. And even if the contractor says, yeah, that portion might be my responsibility, but I would have been able to do it for half the cost as shown in my bid items, the town may elect to move forward and pay for these invoices in advance, and it will have to be worked out with the contractor at a later date. The end result of this contract, the reality is that there's going to be claims from the contractor that we do not agree with and won't be paid, and there will be a claim at the end of the job. There will be claims from the town against the contractor's contract that the contractor doesn't agree with, that will be left on the other side of that. And eventually, at some point at the end of this contract, there's going to be a negotiated settlement to close this contract out. But that's just the reality of what we're dealing with all these residents not being happy with how fast things are going and taking matters into their own hands, and the relationship between their work ending in a right of way and residents not knowing where that right of way is. So it's a complicated matter, but that's the road I see us going down.
I think we understand that.
But that's not unusual in contracts and
I
jobs.
wouldn't think so, but the word
this-
has to get
this
out to the
big.
residents. I thought we had done it, but because early on in this project, someone went ahead and did something. And I remember having a meeting with y'all saying, we can't allow that. We need to notify the residents. They must wait for the contractor, our engineers, to do the work or to authorize that which the resident could do.
I mean, if the residents want to do it, just know that they're not getting reimbursed from the town, that we have, I think that has to be made known, that they can't just submit a bill to us because they got tired of waiting. And I want the residents to be happy, but I mean, I can't, all gardeners charge different. Someone could charge double.
In one particular case, the owner did, I believe, came to us to do the driveway, which I believe Mr. Greg has mentioned, in Palmway. They gave us the opportunity to present to us the costs to restore that driveway. And we agreed to it, but we knew ahead of time.
That's what I'm saying.
And we
There
take
has to be an
responsibility.
agreement that
Right.
people can't just go out and do their own work
Without
and
us
think
knowing
they're going
about
to
it.
be
Right.
reimbursed.
And if they do, they need to know they'll be reimbursed what the contract amount is.
Exactly. Okay, that's all I
Less
know.
than what they're paying.
But
Yeah.
if they give us the opportunity to look at the proposal and we agree, then we become responsible for that invoice, which that's what happened in one of the driveways, which got done last week.
In a perfect world, it works that way. The problem is,
And it was the owner's contractor. He wanted to use their contractor.
Okay. I just think it has to be known that it's under contract that all this is being restored, not the homeowner can't just go out and do it and then ask to be reimbursed.
We may send a notice out, written notice in phase 2
Yeah,
residents.
thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to be doing that.
And I will say, I totally agree with all that. Out in the field, sometimes this work is started, they don't care. And so they will just go
No,
on.
I know, but if we have something in writing to them, I think it'll smooth over. Because we're sensitive to our residents.
Yeah, I want all the residents to be happy. And if they want to do the work sooner and that makes them
Sure.
happy, I think
Right.
that's
I
fine.
think they'll be fine with that,
Yeah.
as long as they know.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on. This ties into the Seacoast loan update.
Yeah.
Unless you have some more to add.
No, Mark, can you update him on the loan?
Yes, I spoke with the bank this week, and they're wrapping up the underwriting, and the closing of the loan should be done within a month. So they said sometime mid-April, and that's for that'll be for the loan amount, but obviously the town will be able to pool whatever amount that they would want at the minimum of $50,000. So as it looks, I did some analysis up till the end of February, and the town's very healthy in reserves, and as in just if we're just speaking of the core project, it looks like the finances are very healthy to where the loan to keep even a $4 million reserve, the town wouldn't even need to borrow any for this particular project. It's more worried about all the other projects that might have to be incurred in the near future, the next couple years, that the
loan would
that the loan would be used for
Right.
to finance those projects and to keep a healthy reserve in case of emergencies. If you look on this sheet, it looks even with the projects that are known, it looks like the amount that needs to be borrowed as of today. I have 1.7 million, but I think it's probably quite a bit more than that. But it might only be around 3 to 4 million in financing that might be needed instead of the full 7.
I mean, Mark and I were talking, and I think Mark believes, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we could actually probably finish this project simply using fund balance.
Great, very good. Thank you, Mark. This is very helpful. Any questions on CIP financing at this juncture? If not, let's move on. North County Road update.
I'll take that, Mayor, if you don't mind. So at the last meeting, we discussed the issues associated with complaints from the residents on County Road. Since that time, we have obtained a quote request verbally through maintenance to put vegetation in the area that we discussed would cost the town approximately $1,500. It's not a very large expense, and we would use the same vegetation material that's already on the south side of County Road if we were to do that, so that it would look consistent and similar in nature. We did install a 15-mile-per-hour sign to reduce that from the 20 to 15. And we also mailed an official letter to St. Andrews notifying them of the violations, the concerns, the statutory requirements for parking, and those kind of things as well. So all three of the issues we've discussed have been resolved. Obviously, at your direction, we'll decide on what we want to do with regards to the vegetation, if that's the direction you choose to go in.
I just drove by a few days ago and saw cars parked, I think 4 or 5 of them parked facing out, going to go down the wrong way on the road. So I think for that modest expense, your suggestion of some plantings there is a good idea.
Okay, we'll proceed with a formal quote versus the verbal, and then we'll obviously work with the town manager for approval on that.
Chief, is there going to be any increase in surveillance in that area? Because I've had a few residents say to me, we like the response, but now these valets are going to fly down North County the right way at 25, 30 miles an hour because they're trying to obviously get there as fast as they can. Is there going to be more surveillance, you think, at certain times to get that message across?
So I don't think surveillance is the solution.
Okay.
What I think is the solution is the proper planting of the vegetation and spacing associated with it to prevent that activity from even happening.
So they're going to go back out on Little Club Road or A1A across?
More than likely, the vast majority of them, based on their space, would end up going directly out to A1A. Okay. But I believe, based on looking at our right-of-way and the vegetation and the spacing that the vegetation would require, it's going to eliminate a lot of the parking in between County Road and the tennis courts.
It's going to reduce the number of
Correct.
So where they'll park now will be just due east of the tennis court, because that's their property, and then the right of way it meets is the DOT.
Is there space between the tennis court?
There won't be once vegetation goes in.
Yeah,
that will pretty much eliminate enough space for a vehicle to park in that area.
That's the issue.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's the solution.
Because our right of way goes all the way down to.
We have
to
about
A1A.
48 and a half feet of right of way on County Road. So we have more right of way than we thought we had.
Okay. It's the right approach. It's going to be inconvenient for the St. Andrews Club, but
what are they going to do for parking?
If we could get compliance before the vegetation went in, then it may resolve the issue. But.
So, I mean, I've been here 8 years and I've never seen that kind of parking since I've been here. On the, I know.
New building across the street.
It could
be.
be.
Parking.
Could be.
I mean, just thinking.
But there's parking around there, around the new exercise center, that large building.
Yes, a lot of parking.
But they don't use it.
Is that the problem?
It's less convenient.
I believe the statement the mayor made is exactly correct. It's less convenient to go that distance.
They have to cross the street.
Correct.
Got it.
Just as it is to go the right direction on County Road.
Got it.
Thanks, Chief. All right, ARPB meeting. Next one is March 27th at 8:30 a.m. Finance report. John?
Yes, I mean, this represents 41% of our budget, and Mark and I do not believe that there's anything outstanding in here that needs to be pointed out to you.
Very good. Any questions about finance? Chief, the police report.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, again, if you would just accept the report that's submitted. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I will tell you that the activity over the last week or so has increased at nighttime with vehicle traffic coming from areas that are concerning. So we've been on top of that. We've had a lot of interactions more frequently. No crime as a result, but the officers are being very diligent at night and paying very close attention to the activity that's occurring in town from these out-of-town visitors. So
Has the lock on the police jail cell been?
yes, we personally made some adjustments to it, and it's been working correctly since.
Very good.
It's
Any questions of the chief? If not, let's move on then to the ordinance 25/1. Ms. Page.
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 66 zoning to establish an overlay district known as the Neighborhood Character Preservation Overlay District within the Gulfstream Core District of the town, providing for regulations within said district by adding a new Article 9, Neighborhood Character Preservation Overlay District, containing Section 66-470 creation, 66-471 one-story houses to provide additional regulations for one-story houses, and 66-472 two-story houses to provide additional regulations for two-story houses, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, providing an effective date, this second reading and adoption today, March 14th, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance 25/1?
I'll move to approve ordinance 21/1, 25/1.
Second?
Renee?
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. We now turn to the contract extension for emergency services, disaster debris relief. We have two of them, I believe. Mr. Dunn.
Yes, these are the contracts we have with contractors that provide services to us, cleanup services, basically after hurricanes or any other kind of disaster. The companies that we have, we work very well with. They have a lot of other clients in Palm Beach County, so so that means they're here during or after events like that, and we're not having to call them from Kansas or Oklahoma. So we would recommend that we extend these contracts with these companies.
Any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the extensions with DRC Emergency Services and Crowder Golf?
I'll move to extend the emergency services.
Second?
Renee?
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Anything else for the good of the order?
Mayor, I'd just like to note that Coastal Waste and Recycling will do their first pickup on April 2nd. So we're transitioning from waste management to Coastal. If you hear anything, have any issues or problems, please contact us at Town Hall. We had a meeting this week with their customer service representative. They have been out reviewing the routes and everything. Turns out that two of their drivers actually worked for Waste Management in Gulfstream maybe 10 years ago. So they're familiar with the area, at least. It hasn't changed that much over the last 10 years, right? There will be a transition that happens before the next meeting. So just wanted to give you a heads up. We anticipate it going smoothly. However, if you do have any issues, they are willing to respond and take care of them.
Thank you.
Very good. So if there is an issue, residents will call Town Hall and staff will take care of it.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you. If there's nothing else, thank you all for coming. Meeting's adjourned.
Good job.